Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Collaboration Conversations. You are in for such a fun time this morning. I can't wait for today's show. This is going to be so much fun. I have with me today a guest host, first of all. Pearl is still unable to be with us at the moment, so we have these wonderful guest hosts who stepped in for her during her absence. And this morning's guest host is Tom Ruwitch. Good morning, Tom. So glad to have you here.
Good morning, Regina. It is great to be here. I can't wait for this conversation.
Awesome. Me too. So just to tell you folks a little bit about Tom, and then I'm going to let him tell more about it. But this man is a magician when it comes to storytelling as part of your marketing. But guess what? The good news is he teaches you how to be a magician as well. So it's not just his talent and you have to send everything to him, but he's going to teach you how to be successful with storytelling. I love it. And so today we have as our wonderful guest today, and I'm so excited to learn more about this gentleman. We have Dr. Pele. Good morning, Dr. Pele.
Good morning, Regina. How are you? And hi, Tom. How are you?
Hello, Pele. How are you?
I'm good.
Pele. And
Yeah.
I am fabulous because I'm so excited to be here with you two gentlemen. So let me tell you just a hint about Dr. Pele. Pele, I will get it right. Keep working on me, guys. I'll get it right. Just a hint about him, and then I want him to share some more about himself. But he is he wears a lot of hats. He is a top marketing author with multiple books, including Social Velocity. Can't wait to hear more about that. He is a musician and speaker. You will notice he has a guitar in hand. It is an extension of him. Can't wait to hear some of that as well. He is a business coach and a CEO of Client Jam. So again, welcome, Dr. Pele. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Regina.
So before we dive into you, I want to take a moment and dive into Tom's background just a little bit. Tom, would you share with our audience a little bit of what brought you to where you're at in your career and who you serve?
Sure. Thanks again, Regina. And hello, Dr. Pele. I'm Tom Ruwitch. I am the founder and CEO of Story Power Marketing, company I started at the beginning of 2020. For 19 years before that, I was the founder and CEO of MarketVolt, an email marketing software company. And I worked with lots and lots of businesses who were using our software to create, deliver, and track email marketing campaigns. And one of the things I saw over all of those years is so many businesses that were struggling with their marketing were frustrating. They might blame the tool, they might blame the tactic, they might blame the tactician, but most of them were not focusing on the content that they were putting out, the storytelling that they were doing. And I came to recognize that 99% of the time, when a business is struggling with the marketing, they probably could power up their content, power up their stories a little bit, a lot, really, and that would help. And so at Story Power Marketing, coaches, consultants, professional service providers, other experts hire us to power up their stories because most are dishing out the same old boring blah, blah, blah content. And then prospects tune out, turn off, go away. And then they feel stuck and frustrated and they keep pushing forward doing the marketing because they're told, oh, social media is important, email is important, you got to put the content out there, but they hate every minute of it.
Yeah.
So I teach them how to transform their content from boring to brilliant, how to turn the marketing process from frustrating to fulfilling and fun, and ultimately how to transform results from pitiful to profitable. The bottom line is if you power up your stories, if you deliver more creative content, you will be the one who stands out in the niche, and your content will be client attracting instead of prospect repelling.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And you and I recently had an opportunity to do an interview or two, and
We
I
did,
was
yeah.
really impressed with how what I said in the opening about you is that you help other people become magicians with their content. It's not just I mean, you're able to share that secret sauce with them and that magic and help them really conquer that. And many of us struggle,
It-
and I think for those of us who were raised in a generation of professional writing, if you will,
Mhm,
everything had to be very, very businessy.
mhm.
It's hard to make that shift into storytelling. I find it difficult. And
Yeah,
I
and
consider myself a good writer, but not a good storyteller.
Yeah, and it really is one of the things that I hear so often from marketers, from business owners, is that, oh, I'm not a creative person, I'm not a storyteller, and they think of this as an act of magic, as in, make believe, hocus pocus, that
Right,
there's
right.
some magical, miraculous thing that you have to be a creative unicorn of some sort to do this, and that's not it at all. It's magic in the sense of go and get the tools, learn the craft, practice the skill, work on the thing over and over and over again. Anybody can learn how to do this if you implement systems that are learnable, delegatable, even in some cases, scalable, and apply those systems in a consistent basis. You don't have to be a
Right,
creative unicorn. It's not an act of hocus pocus magic. It's an
right.
act of learn the craft magic.
Yeah, I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. And you do such an excellent job of it. Well, let's turn a little time to our guest here, Dr. Pele. Dr. Pele, would you tell us a bit about your journey? What brought you to this place? I'm excited to hear about that. What I've
Yeah.
seen on your social media, your website, and things of that. I'm excited to learn more about your background. Who did you serve and why?
Interesting. Um, you know, the first thing that you would probably want to know about me is that I serve people who aspire to something I call profitable happiness. Now, I know it's a phrase that I invented that I think is easy to remember because it just makes sense. You know, all of us want to be happy. We start out in life being happy, and somehow the world teaches us that we shouldn't be happy anymore, and we lose it, and we start focusing on profit, and we leave our happiness behind. And someday, many of us find ourselves profitable, maybe even rich, but terribly miserable. And the issue that I've found that's been most important in my life is how can I arrive there with both profit and happiness? So I serve people who are leaders, marketers, authors, experts, coaches, consultants who have decided that they don't want to compromise their happiness for profit. They've decided that they want to focus on the thing that energizes them the most, that makes them come alive, and use that thing as the path of profit. And so happiness and profit sort of go together. It's almost like taking Maslow's hierarchy and turning it upside down. And you're focusing on happiness first and saying, what really truly turns me on? Now, for a question of my background and why this is so important to me, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to take you way back to Africa in late 1960s when I was just a child of 2, 3 years old. And we were in the middle of a war zone. Imagine bombs falling all over the place. Imagine young children dying from hunger. Imagine all of us afraid to live in refugee camps. And my mother and I were running from camp to camp. And let me tell you the most amazing thing that happened in those days. Couldn't eat, didn't have shelter, was afraid of dying every day. But my mother did the most amazing thing. She sang to me.
Oh,
She took my name, Pele, and she put it inside songs that she created. And she sang these songs to me. And you want to know the magical thing that happened? I forgot about my hunger. I forgot about fear. I wasn't afraid to die anymore because the music had somehow made me happy. And that's when I realized my life's greatest lesson, that happiness comes before success, not the other way around. Happiness creates the profit,
yes,
right? And so
yes,
I've learned that almost everything I do is a search for content, because content can change. Music, like content, can change the conversation and make you happy. And in that happiness, you can do so much more. And so I serve people who want that profit. They don't know how to do the marketing. They don't understand the mindset part, and they want someone to help them, but we start from what makes you come alive.
That's awesome. I feel a kinship to your mother in a way. When my daughter was very young, about 3 to 5, somewhere in that range, I would teach her through song. So I would make up songs. And I remember we had entered her into it was either a dance or a ballet class or something, and for some reason she was rejected. You know, it was like, no, you're not the right shape, the size, the age, whatever it was. And so I just took that experience and created a little song for her to, help her deal with it.
Yep.
And I helped, I mean, I would create songs for what's your name? How do you spell your name? What's our phone number? What's our address? Just all kinds of things that I would create song for to help her learn, and whether that was emotional learning or physical learning about her environment. So I feel a kinship to your mom.
You distracted her from the pain that she was feeling.
Exactly.
You changed the paradigm, and guess what? That's what storytelling, Tom's expertise.
Yeah.
That's what it does. Music, storytelling, content marketing. These are all ways of singing a song to your child and helping them understand what they need to understand, and not the pain and the difficulty on the
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
That's just awesome. What a great thread. So you have that guitar in hand, and I know that when you do your podcasts and things, that is a part of them. So tell us some of the things that you like to play when you're doing that. Is it the same kind of thing we're talking about now, where you just kind of make up things as you go, or something comes out of your head that you knew already? Or
I'm gonna give kudos to Tom here. Tom doesn't know this, but in our last conversation, Tom, where you and I got on the Zoom, I think it was, and I told you I was feeling not so great about some things, and you said, Dr. Pele, you just need to come and do your profitable happiness thing, and that's it. That's all you got to do. Just be happy. Do the thing that makes you happy. That was Tom. So awesome. To your credit, Tom, I've actually changed the format of my podcast. I sing. I bring my music, and that's it. So to your question, Regina, about what I sing, I try to bring music that is relevant to the topic, just like you when you were singing to your child, right? Because music, really, it's that place where we, just like a story, it's a place where we all listen. Like in a story, Tom, you'll probably agree with this. If I say, once upon a time in 1998, everybody goes, oh, tell me. And we are transported to 1998. Same thing with a song. So right now, I have several songs. I have an album called Profitable Happiness. But right now, the song that's on my website and the song that I'm leading with is a song I wrote called I Surrender. And this is a song that is about my surrender to what makes me happy. To no longer paying attention to all the noise of the world, the billions of ways there are to be profitable. It's not important. What's important is your way. What is your way? You have to surrender to it. So that's what I do nowadays. If you want, at some point I can give you like a 5-second version of it here. If you want.
I would love it.
I want it now. Bring it on.
Now.
All right, here's a taste of it. I'll do a verse. I have climbed the highest mountain, hoping there would lie my fortune, but was wrong. And I swam the deepest ocean, seeking treasure and conviction, but was wrong. So I stopped to reconsider all my oaths of self-deception, and I found I was wrong. I was wrong. So I surrender to you. Heaven, I surrender to you. Clearly, I was not made to walk this path alone. So I surrender to you. Heaven, I surrender to you. Humbled here here I stand. Take me as I am back home.
Love it. Yes. I love it. You know, music is such a powerful part of our lives. And you triggered a memory as I was thinking as you were singing there, that when I was a child, I used to make up songs all the time. And I mean, a song might last 20 minutes, you know, in my head. I was just singing, you know. And then I found as I've grown older that music is my happy place also. And in times of grief, music is my happy place.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I
It
appreciate
has
your music.
it has such transformative power. In fact, I'm in the process, pardon me, I'm in the process of writing a book, and the opening chapter, preface, whatever I'm going to call it, forward, is a story I tell about the transformative power of music. And
Mm,
it's and I use that to introduce the notion of the transformative power of storytelling as well. And
awesome.
the common thread here, and the reason I think that Dr. Pele and I have bonded so well, is that we understand that. And at its heart, singing, performing music, storytelling, these are the most human forms of expression. Now, you might argue that, yeah, there are other animals who sing and who I don't know if animals tell stories. I don't think so. Other animals tell stories, but really, these are the things that make us human. And
Right.
the theme of this show is collaboration. And
Right.
when Regina invited me to be a guest host on the show and to invite a guest to join us, the first person who came to mind was Dr. Pele, because collaboration is just like singing, just like storytelling. It's an act of human connection. It's a thing that we humans do. And when it comes to marketing and business, collaboration is what separates, in my opinion, the best marketers and business people from the robots who are just dishing out blah, 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 robotic garbage
Right.
and driving us all crazy with their pitchy pitch pest
Yeah.
crap. And it's all about making human connection, and that's what you're doing when you're performing your music, Dr.
Yeah.
Pele. That's what we're doing when we're telling stories. We're making human connections, we're collaborating, we're joining with our audience, and that's a beautiful thing.
It is. It comes back to Dr. Pele's word of profitable happiness, his term
Yeah.
of profitable happiness. And you know, when I started my podcast and my TV show, I wanted to talk about profit, but I didn't want it to be what you were just saying there, Tom. I didn't want it to be that grubby profitability.
Yeah.
I wanted, and so that's why mine is pursuing profit with principles. You know, let's do this above board and right and in good ways. But I love the addition of happiness to that, Dr. Pele. That's just perfect. Awesome. So tell me a little bit about how the two of you have collaborated. What's been the benefit of that collaboration?
I'll let you take this.
Yeah. I was gonna say. Oh, okay. I was actually gonna have you do it, but I'll go for it. So, Tom was, in a sense, a client of mine. It's a fine line, because he used my software, right? And I have my software is called Client Jam. As you mentioned, I'm the CEO of Client Jam, and everyone in my software, I consider them a client. But Tom went above being a client and was a friend. What we do in Client Jam that allows us to get to know each other is we share content as part of a community of practice. Now, what I mean by a community of practice, and I'm sure everyone knows this, but just so I'm clear that I'm communicating the same thing, is, if I want to get really good at the piano or the guitar, or anything, I can do it on my own, and I can get pretty good. But you never get as good as when you collaborate.
Mhm.
Back to the topic of this conversation, with other people. There's just a magic of community that makes everyone go, oh, really? Now he's doing that. By the way, when I saw Tom's storytelling posts, you know what I needed to do next? Better storytelling. It goes back to community inspires. And so
Yes.
Client Jam is a community of practice where we come together to do content marketing, whether you're doing storytelling or music or anything. You're sharing content that attracts your clients. So that's how Tom and I met.
I love that. That's
Yeah, and from my perspective, I was launching Story Power Marketing. I knew that I wanted to use social media as a tool to share my stories, to make human connections, not do the robotic pitching. And I discovered Dr. Pele and Client Jam and his community early on in that process, a few years back, and was immediately drawn to just what he's described. This idea that it wasn't just about flying alone, putting my stuff out on social and seeing what happened. It was about participating in a community where we were posting content at a set time, at the same time, interacting with one another, providing feedback. Often, mostly positive, sometimes constructive, and critical and helpful.
We need that.
Yeah, absolutely.
We need that honesty.
And the ripples that a community like this helps to create are, we're all lifted by that collaboration. And Dr. Pele created this community, created the tool that supports the community, and it really is a beautiful thing. And some of my greatest business relationships to this day were formed in that community, including the one I have with Dr. Pele.
That's awesome. And I was just going to ask you that as a follow-up question, is like, what kinds of collaborations have come from being in that community?
Mm-hmm. So, well, I'll answer. I've found podcast guests, and I've been a guest on podcasts. I have met people whom I can refer to others, and who have referred business to me. It's all of the things that you hope for when you talk about collaboration in business. It's people who know me at a deeper level than they otherwise might have, just sort of crossing paths on social. I know them at a deeper level, and all sorts of good comes from that. And as an example, just the other day on LinkedIn, one of the people whom I first met through Client Jam just reached out to me and said, "Hey, I'm working on this post. I'd like your feedback." And I gave him some feedback. Not everybody, I'm not going to provide free consulting services to just anyone who reaches out to me cold on LinkedIn. But there is this sense of community. We share, we provide feedback. There are favors given, all of this collaboration. And it's been very valuable and very powerful for me.
Right. I totally agree. I have a group that I put together, I guess maybe about 1.5 years ago. We call ourselves the Business Superheroes. In fact, we're coming out with a book. I'm not sure if it publishes this month or next month, but it's written, and we're going through the final stages of getting that published. And but anyways, the Business Superheroes, and it's that same kind of collaborative effort, that and where we really got to know each other and our businesses at a deeper level so that we could find ways to collaborate with one another. And, spent the first several weeks to months just really, understanding what each person did in their business and really doing a deep dive into everyone's business one at a time. And then we've been supporting each other. We used to meet once a week. Now we meet every other week, kind of a thing. But it's been just a great adventure to partner up with those folks. And so I totally get what you're saying there. It's so powerful, and kudos to you, Dr. Pele, for putting that together.
Thank you.
What was your inspiration for that?
Oh boy.
Put you on the hot seat.
Well, yeah, I'd have to say that if we go back to business owners, CEOs, and even this question of collaborative conversations, I would say everything we do in life is a conversation. You're either selling me something or I'm selling you something, or we're agreeing to disagree, sometimes agreeably, sometimes not so much. Right. Everything is a conversation that is seeking some kind of collaboration. And so I was looking for a way that I could be relevant in business, but do it through things that I really love to do. And there's nothing I love more than the idea of practice. In fact, I registered a domain name called practicee.com. I invented this name, like employee is someone who's employed by an employer. So a practicee is someone who practices. Hasn't quite caught on, but I thought it was cool. So the idea of coming together to practice music is something that I've done all my life, and I love that, just jamming. And so I thought, what if I could bring business leaders together to jam? But instead of jamming music, we're jamming storytelling. We're jamming content marketing. And it hasn't been a financial, success story. That's not the point of it. But as Tom said, it's introduced me to really high quality people. And I continue to hope that that's, the networking aspect is huge. And of course, from there, business naturally occurs. But it's because we're all in this common pursuit of something we care about, and we're helping each other through feedback, get it done. So I was just inspired by how can I make a difference, taking my music as an analogy, the whole jamming, and putting it into business and seeing what happens. And so that's kind of where it's at. Great
idea. How long has it been going?
It's been going on now for, I would say 2.5 years, but I reincarnated it just recently as Client Jam. It was called something else before.
Okay.
But now it's Client Jam.
Client Jam. Yeah. I like it.
Yeah, and I love what you talked about there with practice, because I believe that it all comes down to habit, practice, deliberate, consistent action. I wrote an email today that I just sent to my list about the great Bill Russell. So we're live on this call, but whoever's watching on replay, this is being recorded a couple of days after Bill Russell, the basketball great, passed away. And Bill Russell was tall, of course, and had a lot of talent, but he always said that, this is not success is not some miracle. It's not about God-given talent. It's about practice. And it's the same point that I was making earlier about storytelling and about collaboration and success in your marketing and your social media and whatever it may be. It's about learning the skills and practicing, being deliberate about putting them to work. And one of the great things, especially as I was getting my business off the ground, Client Jam gave me was this commitment to get in there and conduct collaboration as a practice. Do it on a regular basis, show up and participate. And that's what makes you successful in whatever the endeavor may be. Storytelling. It's not sitting down at the computer, waiting for the muse to strike once
Right.
upon a time.
Right.
Okay, magic. Come on, bring it on. No, it's about habitual practice, being deliberate. And so I just love this idea of being a practicee.
Practicing, yeah.
I do too.
I
do
just
too.
love it.
Tom,
Yeah.
is that a business we need to start here?
Yeah, you know, there's something there, Pele. Yeah, absolutely.
And I love what you're saying here, Tom, because it's so important that people realize that their success is not dependent upon those moments of brilliant inspiration,
Right.
but it's dependent upon those hours of deliberate practice of doing the things that are the non-sexy stuff, the boring stuff, and doing it over and over and over again.
That's right.
And you know, we're waiting for these lightning bolts of brilliance to take us to where we want to be, and that's not what gets us there.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Regina, on that point, can I share with you something that I learned about? Like as Tom says, you first learn a skill and then you practice it, right?
Right.
So I learned something when I was at Dale Carnegie training called how to disagree agreeably. Right. So
Yes.
so as we talk about collaborative conversations, I know a lot of people struggle with, how do I just disagree? I disagree with you, and now we're gonna fight, and then the collaboration ends. What's gonna happen? So I learned this skill, and I can share it with you. It's very simple. It's called the CEO skill.
Okay.
Right? And basically it means, first of all, if you're going to disagree with someone, you don't come out and say, "Oh, I disagree with you."
Yeah, or you're wrong.
You're wrong. Because what that happens is that the collaboration ends. Okay? You've destroyed everything. So instead of just disagreeing that way, what you first do is you do CEO. The C stands for you provide a cushion.
I like that.
You provide a cushion for this person to land on. So instead of "I disagree with you," you say something like, "That point you made is really powerful." Or you could say something like, "Many people agree with that point you just made." But you don't add a "but" after that, because because the "but" is, well, I mean, you can't even answer
everything.
You can't add a "however," because it's just a fancy "but." You don't. It negates everything before. But what you do is say something like, and then you go to E, and the E is evidence. You provide evidence. You don't provide your opinion. Evidence. What thousands of people have shown as written on CNN just yesterday is blah, blah, blah. After you provided the evidence, then you provide your opinion. Therefore, I believe that this and that. And then you can't say, "I believe that I disagree with you," because then you're I believe that. So it's like, once I learned that skill, I realized, wait a second, I got to practice this. Because every time I was in a disagreement with someone, my first desire was to say, "Dude, no, I disagree with you." That was where I would always habitually start. So practicing it over and over, I got better at providing the cushion, providing the evidence, then providing my opinion. So there's an example of a way of practicing collaborative conversations.
It's interesting, Dr. Pele. I have begun on social media. We were talking about the cold calls and the robotic stuff that people send to you.
Yep.
And occasionally, selectively, I will respond to some of them that I used to just flat out reject or delete. If the person who is pitching me is someone who fits in my target market, and someone who I believe I could help, I will respond with a variation of what you described.
Yeah.
I might say, well, right now, I'm not a perfect fit for what you're pitching.
Yeah.
Right.
But then I will ask, by the way, how is your cold call, your LinkedIn outreach working for you.
Yeah.
And in effect, what I'm doing there is setting up the evidence.
Exactly.
Right.
Because if they're honest with themselves, they're like, it's not
Yeah.
going well.
Nobody's
I'm
responding to
sending all these pitches, and all I'm getting is people telling me to F off.
Yeah.
And how's this going for you? And then I will share with them some evidence. I find that a lot of the people I work with are having greater success when they blah, 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 fill in the blank, take a more collaborative approach, instill a more human approach to their content creation, whatever it may be. And then sort of the opinion transition is, I don't state it as such, but in my opinion, you might be better off if you have a conversation with me about how to improve your LinkedIn profile and how to improve your LinkedIn, you know, and so it goes back to that word collaboration. I think we live in a world right now where the reflex is too often toward combat as opposed to collaboration, and we have to overcome and hold back that instinct, that reflex, because if we just go to war with everybody and immediately lean into conflict and combat, we don't get anywhere. But if everybody, even those who initially annoy us, who initially approach us with an approach that we don't particularly like, everybody is potentially someone with whom we can collaborate if we approach them with a collaborative mindset, if we look for that opportunity.
Which means we have to be looking to develop relationships, right?
That's right.
The first step is developing a relationship. And I know that, you know, I get so many of these same kinds of introductions, only they're really not an introduction. And it's like, tell me about your business. Well, tell me what you want to know about my business, and I maybe can answer that question. But just saying, tell me about your business, it leaves me, you know, just blank.
Right.
You know, and that's not building a relationship. It's you know, it's but if we can just start with building that relationship. So, Dr. Pele, how do you build relationships?
Oh boy.
In that cold setting, how do you start a relationship?
Yeah. Now, are you referring to in a marketing and sales context?
Primarily.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, the first thing you don't do is say, let's get married.
Yeah. Or have babies.
Pleased to meet you. Will you marry me? Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, don't start with let's have babies either. That's even worse.
Exactly. I've had a few of those.
Yeah. So the answer to your question is actually what I tried to cover in my recent book called Social Velocity.
Wonderful.
Why going fast won't get you far. And it was favorably reviewed by Seth Godin, if you know him. He said, Dr. Pele shows you just how much outbound marketing has changed, and helps you find your footing in a brand new world of ideas. So basically, it's all about slow and steady wins the race. It's all about take your time, stop trying to rush and get instant results. I have to tell you, I think Tom brought this up earlier. We live in a crazy world now where people literally go on screen and say, I made $5 million last month. Like, really? Is that what you do on the street?
Yeah.
Do you normally just go out and tell people, I made $100,000 this month and I can show you how to do it? And then, you know, they show their fake bank accounts and rented Lamborghinis. And it's like, stop, please, just stop, slow down. Talk to me about what I care about. Ask me questions about my day. Like, show me you care, and then maybe I'll care about you. So I think the answer to your question is you build a relationship by stopping the focus being only on you and how great you are. You begin a relationship by asking questions to learn, how are you doing? I just watched it yesterday. I don't know if you guys have seen this. It's a movie called Mr. Rogers with Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
I haven't seen
Have you
it.
seen that? Oh, that's a must watch if you want to see how
All
to
right.
build a relationship. This man, Mr. Rogers, was relentless at caring about the other
He
person's
was.
issue.
Absolutely.
He would listen and listen so carefully and ask probing questions, and he wouldn't stop, almost to the point of you feeling uncomfortable, right? So yes, I think if you want to build a relationship in business, mimic what happens in the real world, which is you don't go fast and boast and shout. You care.
Yeah. It's not about you, it's about them.
It's about
Right?
them. Yeah.
Yeah.
About them.
Yeah, you know, with Fred Rogers.
Oh, did I say Mr. Rogers? Oh, Fred
You
Rogers.
said, yeah, Fred's
Yeah,
his
he
first
went by
name. We
Mr.
all know him
Rogers.
as Mr.
Yeah.
Roger.
Mr.
Right?
Rogers.
And what you're describing there, Dr. Pele, could be called radical empathy.
Yes.
Radical empathy. That's a term that I borrowed from an author named Cheryl Strayed, who used that term, or actually she was described by somebody else as practicing radical empathy. And it's really what you're describing. I've established a framework for storytelling that I call the 3 E's, letter E framework. And the 3 E's are this: empathy, envision, and enable. And when we work with clients, first of all, that framework is how the best coaches and consultants and professional service providers deliver service. It starts with empathy. Put yourself in the other person's shoes. Understand what makes them tick. Learn as much as you can about what they're going through. And it's not just about saying, oh, I'm sorry, or oh, I hope you feel better. That's sympathy. But it's about empathy. It's about, I know how you feel.
Yeah.
And when you get that part right, you're well on your way to delivering service and to making that marketing connection. Secondly, envision. You know where they are, you know what they're feeling, you know what they're frustrated with and that they're stuck about. Where do they want to go? What's on the other side of the mountain? Sometimes they know, and sometimes you need to help them see it. Sometimes you need to help them understand that. And when we talk about storytelling, what we're really talking about is that journey from before to after, empathy to envision. You, the service provider, are not pitching some product, pitch, me. You're revealing the story, the journey from before to after, and helping them recognize how you enable the journey, how your products and services get them there. And if you do the storytelling part right, if you reveal, if you meet them where they are and show them where they can go, they're going to lean in and say, oh, yeah, that's what I want. How do I get there? And now, instead of being an unwanted pest, me, pitch, you've been invited to say, well, I have this bridge. I have this product. I have this service. Let me tell you about it. And they're on the edge of their seats. It begins with empathy. And so you so nailed it, Dr. Pele, by bringing that up and by talking about Fred Rogers. Radical empathy. The better you are at it, the more you practice it, the further you'll go, both as a marketer and a service provider.
Love it.
100% agree with both of you. Absolutely. Yes. Well said, sir. Sirs, well said. Oh my goodness, we could go on for a while. However, I suppose
there was a however. You're not allowed to say however. No however's allowed.
It's a fancy but.
Oh my goodness.
We could go on forever and we have to stop.
And we have to stop, unfortunately. Oh, this has been such a pleasure, gentlemen. I've really appreciated my time with both of you. Tom, thank you so much for being our guest co-host today. Appreciate that so very much. And Dr. Pele, thank you for joining us. It's been a pleasure to get to know you. I would love to have an opportunity to interview you on my podcast and TV show. So we'll talk about that later if you're open to that
Yeah,
idea.
and vice versa. I have a podcast called Profitable Happiness. I'd love to invite you too.
Sounds great.
Tom has been a guest, so he knows.
Tom has been a guest already. Awesome.
Yes. Highly recommend being a guest on Dr. Pele's podcast. It will
Would
make you
love that.
happy
It will make
and
you
lead to profit.
And that's such a winning combination. Profitable happiness. Love it. Love it. Thank you again, gentlemen. And thank you folks for joining us today. And we'll see you again on Thursday at 11:30 Central Time for another collaboration conversation. Bye for now.